Update. Am I the a-hole for not moving out of my apartment so my brother can have it? Original post. I, female 23, have an older brother 32. I moved out of my parents' house earlier than him and found a small place for myself that is really close to my job. The place is not the biggest. It's a one-bedroom apartment, but it is enough for one person, and rent is very cheap, so I'm extremely happy with it. I put a lot of work into it and made sure it's my little happy space. Recently, my brother started staying over now and then. I don't have a problem with that. He works the night shift, and my place is also closer to his job than my parents' house. The problem began when he started bringing more and more of his stuff to my place. He brought his PS4, started gaming in my living room, and is overall just being a terribly inconsiderate guest, and treats me like our mom. I brought this up with my parents, and my dad suggested that I should let my brother live there and get myself a new apartment. He said I should look for a bigger place, because my brother makes less money, and he could afford my place, and I could just find something better. But I don't want a bigger apartment. I have no plans to have a family or partner where I would need anything more than one bedroom. And I put so much work into personalizing my apartment that this feels so unfair. My parents said I'd be an a-hole for both kicking my brother out now for staying over and not giving him the place. Is that true? Edit with some additional info. My brother does not pay rent to me. He used to stay here for only a couple of days, but it's been turning into weeks. I did contact my landlord as of today. She hasn't responded yet, but she's nice, so I hope she'll understand my situation. Also, additional info, I didn't know my parents or my dad would react like this. I thought he'd help me talk to him as we don't have a bad relationship. I'm trying to figure out why he thinks my brother should have my apartment too, but my dad hasn't been responsive since that conversation. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Please do not let your family bully you into giving up the thing you worked hard for. Your brother is a grown man, 32 years old, and can definitely find another place if he needs to, and can't be a considerate guest. That is your space, and you need to put your foot down and have a strong backbone, because clearly your parents are going to side with him once you make it clear you aren't giving him the place. Also, why would you need something bigger? What you have works for you. Again, don't let anyone bully you or manipulate you. He's 30. Let that man figure his own stuff out. He isn't your responsibility. If you need him out, kick his butt out. Not the a-hole. Opie, it is your place. Don't let him belittle your feelings. Tell them if they are so worried for dear helpless brother, then they should help him pay rent to an apartment of his own. Easy as that. Opie should bring all her brother's belongings to her parents' house. Then change the lock if he has a key and let them deal with it. If they're so worried about their struggling son, they can deal with him. I can't decide if your brother has always been your parents' favorite or if they are just so desperate to get a 32-year-old man out of their house that they are willing to screw you over in the process. Either way, not the a-hole and get that parasite out of your happy place ASAP. Came here to say the same. It seems like Opie's parents have a favorite child and Opie is used to accommodating her brother. I'm sure their parents are just desperate to get him out permanently now that they've had a whiff of freedom. He's probably just happy taking over his sister's home without actually having to pay for it or being responsible. I suggest Opie changes the internet password. That seems to work on many teens. Yikes. Kick him out with his stuff and change locks. Move him before he can claim tenant rights or squatter rights or whatever. Hurry. Not the a-hole. Your brother is a grade A mooch. Agreed. Change the locks ASAP. And tell him in writing he can't stay over anymore and he needs to come get his stuff by X date. Opie, it sounds like you've been realized to think your brother's needs should come before your own. I'm telling you, your parents' request is so weird that it's almost laughable, and you should confidently ignore it and focus on improving your own life. Your brother is a grown man and is trying to take your apartment rather than find his own. Step 1. You can't stay here anymore. It breaks the lease. Step 2. When he leaves for the night shift, have the place rekeyed. Drop off his stuff with mom and dad. Step 3. Text brother, I dropped your stuff at mom and dad's. It was fun having you hang out here. Too bad about the lease. I'll let the landlord know you're interested in the place if they get an opening. Now for the update. First, I want to say thank you for all the encouragement in the comments of my last post. It took me longer to deal with this than I expected, but finally, I think I found a solution. Several people asked for an update, so here it is. So I attempted to talk to my father again, but at this point, I am assuming that a lot of the comments were right about them just wanting me to deal with my brother in their place. I took time off my work schedule to pack his things together and waited for him to crash here after work again, since I still needed a key back. Looking back, probably not the best move, but I was stressed and tired. It was an awful fight, but it did end with him eventually leaving my apartment and returning my keys. The reason I didn't get the locks changed is because my landlord reminded me that this could be very expensive and she wouldn't cover the cost for me. It's been several days, and my brother has not contacted me since, nor attempted to enter my apartment. I am still considering changing the locks and might do so soon with my landlord's permission and covering the cost myself, but it seems I have my space back. The thing that really bothers me is how my relationship with my parents suddenly suffered so much from this. My initial reaction when I asked them to help me throw out my brother and my dad responding with the apartment switch was that they couldn't be serious. Apparently they were. My mom did talk to me this week and said since I'm on good terms with my landlord, I could figure something out. It's completely ridiculous and almost comically evil at this point. I told her that's not how renting a space works. I don't even know if this is pure entitlement or ego. Doesn't matter though, I decided to lower contact with them over this until they find out what they did wrong. Regardless if they do or don't, my family are not the main characters of my life, and I am done with being a doormat to them. It took some encouragement to stand up for myself, and I want to thank everyone who gave it to me. You handled this just right. I would at least find out what changing the lock or rekeying it would cost. You can usually just change parts of it, and it's fairly easy to do it yourself. It's a valuable life skill. I took my own lock from home to home for a few years. Also, it may be cheaper to just have the lock rekeyed. Thank you. That's exactly the word I was looking for. You just changed the barrel or some such component. Cheap and easy. You do know you can change your locks yourself, right? You need a new locks, a screwdriver, and the ability to read and follow basic instructions. A power drill would be helpful, but it's not necessary. Well, it's a rental. I can't just change the locks without asking my landlord. I did it as a 20-something by myself, and it was pretty easy. Just ask your landlord if you can have the locks changed. He doesn't need to know you're the one doing it. You'll still have to buy the lock, but it's a lot better than hiring someone to do it. Then I'll ask again and tell her I'll cover the cost and look into doing it myself. Thanks for the tip. Here's what I would do, because I believe that for the sake of sanity and peace, and not being demonized for something that is an egregious ask, this is a situation that calls for a little white lie. I would say that I spoke with my landlord, and I would tell your landlord beforehand so she can back you up, and she said no, that she will be the person to choose all future tenants, and furthermore, that is not my place to simply decide who gets to live there next. That if I give up my apartment, she already has people in mind with whom she has developed a rapport and is confident that she'd enjoy them as tenants. And if I were a landlord, I would absolutely feel this way. I would definitely not allow a tenant to decide who the next tenant is going to be. And I'd be suspicious that they even suggested usurping my power. Your parents offloaded their son onto you and made it your problem, so turnabout is fair play. It's not a malicious lie. It is merely a small lie to ward off what is an exceedingly unfair demand of you and your home. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents that if their third partner moves in, I'm living with my grandparents? So my 16 female parents recently made a new friend, 27 female, who it turns out is more than a friend. The way they explained it to me is that she's their third partner. I guess it's some poly thing. I don't know. I don't follow that stuff. I guess they're still married and all that, but she's more like a secondary partner. The last few months were weird, but I was managing. They'd warned me in advance if she was coming over or if they were going to her place. I could handle that, but what was awkward is that in the mornings after, she's usually still there. It's a little freaky getting ready for school and making small talk when you know why they're here. Her visits were getting more and more common, and my parents wanted to have a talk with me that she's moving in. The spare room will be her room, and they'll all live together as a throuple. I don't think I can handle that. It's just too weird, especially since she's closer to my age than theirs. Now, she's friendly enough, but it's still weird, like she's halfway between family friend and stepmom. It's not any one thing really, it's just that the whole situation is just too much too fast for me. My grandparents live nearby, and I'm always welcome to stay there. So I told my parents I'm just gonna live with them at least until I finish school. They did not take it well. They think I hate them, and I'm not being open-minded. I explained I still love them and I want to live with them, but on top of being uncomfortable, I don't want to explain to my friends who the young woman who lives in our spare room is. Plus, I admit it really does gross me out when I see this woman being affectionate with my parents. They never do anything inappropriate in front of me, but still. They said I was being bigoted and that they were disappointed in me, but let me go and said my room will be waiting for me. Now I feel awful and wonder if maybe I should have just kept my head down until college. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's asking a lot of a 16-year-old to live in the middle of a throuple. Most teenagers don't want to know anything about their parents' intimate lives, so having breakfast with their overnight guest is really a stretch. Move in with your grandparents, relax and focus in high school and don't feel guilty about it. I'm a former swinger/poly person. I cannot imagine putting my child in this kind of a situation. 2 years isn't long to wait. My partner's parents were swingers when he was a kid/teen, and the kids were scarred by it, permanently. Hard not the a-hole. Sorry that your parents want an F-buddy more than for you to be comfortable in your family home. Not the a-hole. The least they could do is allow you to move out peacefully instead of guilt trip you and call you hateful. Holy midlife crisis, Batman. I cannot agree more. This child wants and needs a family, but parents want an F-buddy. Idiots that want to celebrate this throuple fail to recognize that their new made-up word highlights a relationship shared by 3 people, and not the child. Nobody cares about your kinks, and those expecting a kid to just roll out the welcome wagon for some needy 20-some-year-old because others here need to defend their own choices are freaking selfish. Opie deserves her parents' love, attention, and resources. Poly is fine, but kids shouldn't be dragged into it. Don't bring strangers into your kid's life. Not the a-hole. Amazing how so many people who claim to be open-minded are so close-minded when others don't agree with them. If the 27 female moves in, it's going to get weirder real quick. The grandparents seem like a really good option. People are always open-minded, unless you don't validate their beliefs/lifestyles. And when I say validate, means approved, promote, and live that lifestyle too. It's like people calls you all kinds of phobic when you say you're not attracted to them. Last story. Am I the a-hole for living with my mother full-time since I'll have to share a room with my half-brother when he's born? I, 16 female, mostly live with my mom. I do every other weekend with my dad and his wife, who's pregnant with my half-brother and is due in 3 months. The issue is that my dad's place only has 2 bedrooms, so I'll have to share my room with the baby whenever I go over there. So I told my dad when they announced she was pregnant that I'm not sharing my room, especially with the baby. Last weekend was my last visit. I did that so they'll be free to get ready for the baby, which I thought they'd appreciate. I'll go over again if they happen to move somewhere with an extra room, but I'll probably be 18 before that happens. Like I said, I figured Dad would appreciate me giving him time to get ready, but instead, he's been nuts. Not only is he not talking to me, he's also saying until I grow up, I won't get to meet my brother when he's born. Not that I was looking forward to that anyway, and that he's going to have the judge make me come. Now that's not gonna work. Where I live, at my age, judges don't usually care. So I'm not worried about that. Still, he said I'm being really immature, and I need to grow up and come over again. I already told him I'm not, but now he's been calling my mom and bothering her. Not the a-hole. The baby should be in the parents' bedroom for the first 6 months to a year. There is no reason you should share a bedroom with an infant. Actually, there is a reason she needs to share a room with a baby. Who else is going to get up with a baby in the middle of the night? There's the truth of it. He wants free babysitting when she's there so he can sleep in. Not the a-hole. They're trying to make you raise their child. Run away. And dad also doesn't want to pay ex-wife more child support because he'll have to if OP's there full-time. Ding ding ding! Winner! I can almost guarantee that's the main reason behind dad's objections. If OP lives with mom full-time, he has to pay more child support. If they share parenting time, this support is reduced. Aside from that, OP is not the a-hole. She's 16 and deserves to have her own space, even if not living with dad full-time. She needs privacy and not to have to deal with a baby waking up all night long, the smell of loaded diapers in her sleeping space, etc. Trying to be fair, maybe this baby wasn't planned, and moving to a larger place is not financially possible for dad right now, but he needs to understand where OP is coming from as well. Not the a-hole. I think your father was counting on having your forced help to make his weekends go easier. Also, he may be worried that he may have to pay additional child support if you live full-time with your mom. Either way, threatening you about withholding affection and access, both parental and sibling, is an absolute a-hole move on your dad's part. And then calling your mother to badger her is the crappy cherry on top. Don't feel bad, OP. Teens need sleep and privacy. Your dad is being the jerk here. Lol, dad can take it in front of a judge to try to force weekend visits. But what judge is going to hear, "I want to force my 16-year-old to stay weekends and share a room with a newborn," and think, "That's a great idea and so appropriate"? The judge is going to look at your dad like a moron. The fact that he is straight up giving you the silent treatment and threatening to withhold your relationship with your new half-siblings, even if you don't want it, proves the man isn't mature enough to have 2 kids, let alone 1. Not the a-hole. Have fun at your mom's without the 2 a.m. wake-ups.